Oh, we're live.
I think we started with Trey's comment.
The cyber pandemic is upon us, freaks.
It's a good looking koozie there.
It's a good double entendre.
Uncle Snotty live from Bitcoin Park.
I am literally snotty today. Can never move to Nashville. The allergies are flaring up too much here.
Do we have different allergies here?
I think so. Very congested right now.
It is kind of a rainforest over here, so that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. Oh, what a week. These weeks in Nashville are long, but good.
It's because there's so much great activity and people to meet.
Yeah,
and conversations to have.
There are, but we have to have this discussion. Do Bitcoiners actually do work, or they just meet up at conferences and summits?
Yeah, proof of meetup.
I think you get a lot done actually, like talking to people in person and physical interactions. But there's definitely a
bull market in conferences.
Well, no, there's some kind of curve or something where
marginal return.
Your return goes down at some point.
Yeah.
When you do enough of them, you start getting tired. Conversations start to, devolve a little bit. So you got to stay fresh. Got to get some rest.
It's the same people all the time, though.
It's good. You develop deeper relationships.
You do. But we got to go get some work done, freaks.
Are we
working hard enough here?
We got a lot done this week.
Bitcoin's at like 24K.
I mean, like I think
super strong. By the way,
I think
super strong.
You're being a little hard on us. I think this was an extremely productive 2 days. It was only 2 days.
Bitcoin and birdies.
Yeah, you said
the week.
Only 2 days. I slept here for 3 nights. This is my 4th day here.
Tuesday. When did you get in?
This is my 3rd day here. Or Monday night.
Monday night. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we had the first annual Bitcoin Park Golf Classic.
Great event.
Sponsored by Unchained. Trey led that initiative out of Unchained, so thank you, Trey.
Yeah, man, it was a beautiful day. Beautiful course. A lot of good people. Did you make any birdie putts?
Yes.
I made a 50-foot birdie.
You guys had a lot of birdies.
But we had one bogey and we still won. I think that's rare in a scramble.
We had more bogeys than I'd like to admit.
We only had one bogey. I hit a 50-foot putt on a par 3. That felt good.
But anyway, I felt like we had a decent amount of collaboration and good conversation in my foursome. I was like very happy with my foursome. I thought in general the 36 players we had were very high signal Bitcoiners, and
there are a lot of people who are new to Bitcoin too.
Yeah, I thought that was productive.
Yeah, the way it worked out, Rod is a member at this club. Sorry for doxing you, Rod. And he had to get some other club members to join the scramble so he could have
to get the guest number higher.
Yes, and we had one of the members of the club in our foursome, and he had a revelation. He thought he was dreading the scramble. Apparently, the day before, he thought he was going to get thrown in with a bunch of crypto bros. We were going to be talking about NFTs and all that stuff, and his perspective completely changed by the end of the round. He was like, "Oh, you Bitcoiners are actually pretty cool."
There you go. That's a win.
It is a win.
Small win.
I don't know if he was just fluffing us up or genuine.
I mean, many such cases. We see that all the time, right?
Yeah.
Where like people group us in with the crypto bros.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think the golf classic was very productive, but most importantly, that was fun. And it was just a great time. And then yesterday we had a full day 1031 Tribe Event Summit, where we had, many of our founders join us, a bunch of investors and prospective investors. Like, I mean, that was quality conversation. You led a panel, I led a panel, Jonathan led a panel, and then we ended it. Unchained had a workshop, Zaprate had a workshop, and then we ended it with our monthly open house where Will Cole led that, with Tom, Rory, and Parker, right?
Yeah.
And
can we just give a shout out to Rory? How much energy does that guy have?
And he's impressive. Rory from Grid.
Yeah.
It was a really productive 2 days. And I think there's a lot of things that get done in person off the record that just don't happen. I mean, I know me personally, like, fuck Zoom calls. Like, I think there's a term, Zoom fatigue. Like, I am way past Zoom fatigue. Like, I think that's the understatement of the century. It's not even fatigue.
There's the same people at a lot of these events, and that's true. But the market conditions change. What's going on in in the Bitcoin world changes and evolves. And so the conversations change and evolve. You get perspectives that grow over time where people are seeing different things in the market.
Yeah.
Well, there was one comment on the mining panel yesterday talking about like 200 megawatts of power coming online in the next year or something.
200. There's like 90 gigawatts of backup in ERCOT alone.
90 gigawatts? Did I mishear that?
Or no, 40 gigawatts. Yeah, it would like double the capacity.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I've been wondering to myself, like, how much further can hash rate go in the short term?
Pretty high. Because
leading into the halving,
I mean,
when hash price is going to be cut.
Marty's hash rate prediction. It's the hash rate is going to go pretty high in a certain amount of time.
Well, the only thing constricting hash rate growth right now is infrastructure. There's not enough rack space to plug in the ASICs, but there is a sea of ASICs that aren't plugged in right now, hundreds of thousands. I would venture to estimate over 500,000 ASICs. Just
are those insane actual machines?
Yeah.
And are those coming from orders that were placed in 21?
Not pre-orders. So from my understanding, these are new inventory that hasn't sold to new buyers because people have just been scooping all the cheap ASICs up on the secondary market as people have gone bankrupt.
So the manufacturers were anticipating there would be more demand.
Yeah.
They overproduced.
Yeah. So they probably had to lock down the foundry space for this run of ASICs in 2021 when the bull market was raging. They were like, yeah, we're going to sell a shit ton of ASICs. But I do think those ASICs will get plugged in. It's going to take some time, but we need to build out a lot of infrastructure.
I mean, to go back to our previous conversation too, bear markets, the trickle of new people decreases, right? It's mostly ride or dies, and then the bull market hits, and then you have way more new faces come in.
But the new people bring noise.
Always, yeah.
There's a lot of noise. And so when those new people are coming in less, there's less noise. And so the ride or dies can like get to work, as we're talking about. We got to get to work and build the tools that allow Bitcoin to penetrate into the ecosystem of the broader economy and people's consciousness in a way that sticks.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's great to be ride or die in the bear market, and mining particularly, because it's the best time to deploy into the mining space.
It's the best time to stack sats too.
Really is. And I do want to say, I was being a bit facetious with my comments at the beginning of the episode about whether or not we're working. I do agree. The in-person events are very high leverage, very fruitful. I definitely had a lot of good conversations yesterday. And I do want to highlight too, I thought it was really cool, not to blow smoke up our own asses here, but the 1031 event, the 3 panels, we had Trey, Sam Abbasi, Katie, Langton, and Becca Rubenfeld on the first panel, focused on like finance and Bitcoin and financial products. Second one was the mining panel, myself, Tom, Rory, and Andrew Myers from Satoshi Energy. And then the third was you, Vivek, Tony, and John from Zaprite. And I think
Tony from Mutiny. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that was really cool. The first panel, please don't take any offense to this, was like the suits in the industry. The second was like the blue collar, like infrastructure builders. And the third was like the hooded, shadowy super coders. I think it was a great representation of the different areas of the economy that Bitcoin touches.
And I mean, for my panel, I believe I asked every blue check in the room to raise their hand, and you were the only blue check.
That's because there was more blue checks in that room.
No one wanted to admit
Nobody wanted to admit it.
Yeah. that blue check shame. There's a lesson there somewhere.
Is Will Cole blue? Will's a blue check.
Yeah, Will is a blue check because he came up to me personally and tried to defend the blue check, and I was like, "Will, are you a blue check?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, no wonder you would try and defend it."
Hey, we're getting some good information. I'm going to report back. I'm going to do a quarterly blue check report on what's going on in the inner circle so that we know what to prepare.
Marty's just frustrated with Bitcoin Park because this blue check gets him no extra privileges here. He likes that Twitter interaction.
I would like more privileges. Can we get a doorknob that works?
Well, I mean, I think we should low blow in a bear market. Get out of my studio.
Those are bull market things.
We should touch on the topic of the day before we get to Clark Moody's dashboard. which is, according to Balaji's prediction, we are going to hit $1 million by the end of day.
That's gonna be a big green candle.
4,000% green candle.
Could happen. It could happen.
I'm ready. My body's ready.
It's not impossible.
Nobody's ready if that happened.
I'd be coming home like a.
Definitely missing the flight.
What would cause it to happen?
I think I could miss a flight if it went to $1 million. I think my wife would.
What would it be? What would the one thing be that would cause it to go up 40,000%?
4,000%.
4,000%.
See, just a humble 4,000%. We don't need 40,000%.
What's the difference?
Well,
A power of 10.
Why being so humble?
If we go to $1 million, if we go to $1 million bucks in one day, there's no difference between 4,000 and 40,000.
I mean, 10 million would be.
I would take a humble 100K.
I'd take a humble 30K. So we got some time. It's 12:35.
We got some time.
It's not over yet. So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah. What would cause that? I don't know what would cause that. Tether going down?
No, I don't think there's anything that can move it that fast.
Jay Powell comes out and says
It's a Thursday.
The Federal Reserve has been stacking
sats.
Bitcoin.
It's a Thursday before Juneteenth. Kids are getting out of school. People are going on vacation. They're not going to be moving money to pour it into Bitcoin. You know.
I mean, there's something I do not expect $1 billion by the end of the day, but I've always assumed that there are situations that could lead to just a massive green candle where just sellers evaporate. So you don't even need that many buyers on the buy side. It's just something happens where there's just the sell side liquidity goes down.
Yeah.
What if Coinbase delists all the shitcoins
and Bitcoin? Then we might go.
And Bitcoin.
You just can't buy it.
You just can't buy it.
Yeah.
Coinbase. Interesting partnership with a block that was announced today.
We have that on the list.
The Bitkey. Should we just jump in the list? Should we do Clark's dashboard?
Do Clark's dashboard. Pull it up.
Let me pull it up. Boom.
Anyway, I think it's safe to say Balaji didn't think we were going to be down 10% in 90 days.
He got the message out there.
Did he?
It would have been nice if he was at least directionally correct.
Yeah, like a humble 80,000 or 100,000 or something.
Would have been nice. Didn't hit it. Currently sitting at $24,995.
What was the price 90 days ago?
I have no idea.
Freaks, let us know what the price was 90 days ago.
Current sats per cuck buck is 4,001 sats. That number's going up. It's a good thing if you like the stack. We're currently under a 500 billion market cap at 485.1 billion. My eyes are going. This is bad. We are block height 794,487. We had a difficulty adjustment between this week and last week. It was an upwards adjustment of 2.2%. We are currently 1,833 blocks away from the next adjustment, estimated to be on June 27th, which is 11 days, or excuse me, wow, I really can't see. 12 days from now. Yeah, it's the 15th.
We have Philip Rizzo in the comments saying, I applied for the Bitkey external beta test, and also the price won't go up till Marty removes his blue check. Oh, he said blue cuck, actually.
Blue cuck. Well, you're a beta, Philip. You're signing up for the beta list, like a beta. So I don't take advice from betas. There are currently 117,067 transactions in Clark's mempool. We'll check whizzes.
We were at 25K 90 days ago, so we're about even.
25K is really good. Look at what's going on.
Wi-Fi here is slow.
You think it's
we have rates at
impressive?
5 and 6%?
Rates are higher than that, right?
I don't know, something like that.
No, they didn't raise rates.
Well, mortgage rates keep going up.
That's true.
Where's the 2-year treasury?
The 30-year
like
fixed rate
5%.
mortgage is at like 7.4% now or something.
Yeah.
There's 296 some odd thousand transactions in Wiz's mempool.
You have the two largest on-ramps.
2 years at 4.648 right now.
BTC Pins is calling me a bear, and I just want to tell you, BTC Pins, I love you, but you can go fuck yourself.
You have the two largest on-ramps on the globe being attacked by the SEC. Or getting their comeuppance, however you want to think about that.
That's true.
You have,
I think I think we have other bearish news that's going to come.
What is that?
How low do we go?
I think BitGo Prime Trust is going to turn into a Binance FTX situation. BitGo is going to look into the books and be like, oh, actually, never mind. We're good.
I mean, I heard that the regulators are going to block it, but either way.
Why would the regulators block it?
Because Prime Trust is in so much pain that...
Why do you think that would impact the price?
I don't think that would.
I don't really see much of an impact from that. Like, I mean,
I don't know. People are stuck on Prime. You got OKX. Who else?
Are there people still stuck on Prime Trust?
I don't know. Well, then did you see this news too? Logan pulled this up.
What, the founder getting sued?
Well, this is more than that. It's just pure fraud.
Well, that's why I think regulators are going to block it.
Here, Logan, pull up this tweet. I'm going to put it in this.
But I don't think that matters really for Bitcoin. Price-wise or whatever.
I just don't see where those sellers are coming from, right?
Yeah, so this is news out today. Bank is alleging that Scott Purcell, the founder of Bank, Prime Trust, and Fortress Trust, unlawfully transferred the vast majority of the debtor's employees' trade secrets, intellectual property, technology, business opportunities, and equipment from Prime Trust to his new startup, Fortress. So
yeah, I mean, that seems pretty obvious. Like,
it seems pretty bad.
Yeah, but also it's literally advertised as like Prime Trust 2.0.
Yeah. The real Prime Trust.
Yeah.
Satoshi's.
It's like, I mean, the external messaging has been, the founder of Prime Trust left and started Fortress Trust and does the same thing.
Yeah. So I think that's going to cause some disruption.
It might make it harder for certain people to buy Bitcoin depending on what on-ramps they're using. But it doesn't cause sell pressure.
No, but people are
panicky. You don't think the weekends have mostly sold already?
I don't know.
Like who still has weekends that's holding Bitcoin?
I don't know.
Wait, how low did we go? We went to like 15 or something.
Like 15.5,
right? Something like that.
I don't know. Doesn't matter. We're going to hit $1 million Bitcoin by the end of the day. So
yeah,
the point remains. There's been a ton of headwinds. We're still at 25,000.
We're still here, baby.
We're still here.
If you would have told me,
I think that's pretty strong. Bitcoin's never seen a global.
Usually when
recession.
We say this comment, by the way, on RHR, like we're fucked. Like that we're about to go down further.
I'm trying to help. Trying to help all the freaks stacks.
I'm aware of all the Odell Marty jinxes that happen.
All right, reverse jinx. We're going to 10K. Prepare. Get your buys.
You can't. If you say reverse jinx, it doesn't work. Bro.
Get your buys set at 10K.
Only works one way.
Yeah, we'll be interested. This Fortress stuff. I mean, it could be hairy. Like Swan was transitioning to them.
Swan moved to Fortress and Bitco.
Yeah, I imagine others did as well. So it's something to keep an eye on, freaks. A lot of grift.
I will say I've said this since 5 years ago when we first started RHR, and I've said it consistently that one of the reasons I have never even considered selling Bitcoin and trying to trade it is because you never know if you can get back in.
It's too hard.
Yeah.
It could go to $1 million in the next 12 hours.
Or the on-ramps could just all be closed.
Yeah, because there is this theme of like qualified custodians popping up. Like people really leaning into that.
Qualified custodians is it's a statist meme.
As I understand it, that's only related to registered investment advisors, RIAs, right?
Yeah.
No, it has some. I mean, I heard
it's a big part of the market.
What I heard it had something to do with no, but it's been coming up for just like regular on ramps and stuff, and it's because Celsius wasn't one and BlockFi wasn't one. So during bankruptcy, it's not your Bitcoin. It's like treated as assets of the company, and you're just a normal creditor.
Bill Munyon from
something like that. It's way above my pay grade. I don't know. I don't understand that stuff. I mean, I come from the class of Bitcoiners that if your custodian goes down, you're just never going to get any money. So it doesn't really change anything for me in that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's not your Bitcoin if you're trusting somebody else with it.
You don't own any Bitcoin.
Yeah. I mean, there's the law and the legal frameworks around the stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's like Bitcoin law.
That's where the qualified custodian stuff comes in, right?
That's where the qualified custodian stuff
Pull up
comes
this
in.
thread, Logan. So Bill Manion from River, who's their GC, had some good color on this. BlockFi case had good precedent too. A qualified custodian just isn't significant protection in bankruptcy for coins stored one-to-one, but companies that can't hold their own keys will keep fighting in advance of going public. I guess this is a knock at Swan and their QCs. The qualified custodians will keep lobbying for the regulatory moat. QC model panic switch. All right, he had some more like elaborate.
You just started reading the thread and you're just like, it's an attack thread on Swan, and you started reading it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll read it. The qualified custodian model panic switch from formerly safe custodian to a new totally safe custodian who is running a long-term custody solution, but also tried to sell to Novo Bitcoin model. Sleep easy. Client funds are protected by math. I guess this gets into the question again, like qualified custodian, just because these entities get a proverbial blue check from the feds that they're qualified custodians and are good arbiters of the custody of your Bitcoin. It doesn't really mean so. And I guess that's the debate.
Just hold your own keys.
Well, that's the debate that's raging. Well, like hold your own keys, or like I trust River's multi-sig cold storage is probably better than Prime Trust. Unchained's multi-sig primitives are a better model.
There's no substitute for holding your own keys, of course. We do talk about something that's tangential to this topic when it comes to inheritance planning, where, you know, when you're trying to pass your Bitcoin down to your loved ones, there's two sides of this coin that you have to consider, right? One is the legal title, and one, what was that?
No, there's a great pun. Continue.
Can you stop reading?
No, you said two sides. There's two sides of the coin. Continue.
Two sides of this Bitcoin. The legal title, and who has claim to that wealth that you're trying to pass on, and then also like who's got possession, who actually controls those keys. And unless you want it to be like really messy when you're passing your Bitcoin down, you need to take care of both of those things. So it's not like the law doesn't matter. I mean, it does, but there is no substitute for holding your own keys. Like you have to take care of that.
No. And does Miniscript fix this, make it easier? We're becoming Miniscript maximalists on the show?
No.
No.
Yes. I mean, it does. It could. It's literally designed to.
Yeah. How does it make it easier? It definitely makes it a little more complex, or potentially more complex.
Well, you could do, I mean, with inheritance specifically, you could do pretty cool things with Miniscript.
Like you could give your wife a key that she can't spend from until you pass. And then she knows that that's the key that she has to move the Bitcoin.
You can do like time locked keys and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but this whole...
And you can have like expiring multi-sigs, I believe.
But can we leave
You're adding a lot of complexity.
Oh, 100%.
Sure.
And the way most Bitcoin is lost is
through complexity and just making mistakes.
But with inheritance specifically, first of all, there's no one size fits all model, but having additional programmability at that layer with Miniscript can give you, you know, more interesting more compelling setups.
I agree.
Because the thing is with inheritance, the hard part about inheritance is depending on your threat model, your heirs are vulnerability in the threat model, and it's not just your heirs stealing from you, right?
It's not.
But if you give your mom access to spend your Bitcoin and she puts the private key on a Post-it note on her iMac at home, right, then you can get compromised by anyone who has access to the Post-it note.
The hardest part about all that is keeping the private keys actually secure.
Yeah. So with Miniscript, the fact that you can, once again, I'm not a Miniscript influencer. We don't have Rob here.
He is in the building.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's upstairs.
Well, if you're listening to this, Rob, you can come down here and we won't shoot you. But yeah, and I would say people shouldn't rush into it, right? Let the tooling happen. You know, let a bunch of people lose some money on basic fuck ups and more complex fuck ups, and then hopefully the tooling gets to a place where it's harder to shoot yourself in the foot, right?
I think if we evolve into that type of model and that becomes normal, it's really important that there are good standards that are well reviewed in terms of like the types of Miniscript policies that are being put in place. Like,
right.
you say you don't want to roll your own crypto, like you probably don't want to roll your own
Yeah.
Miniscript policy for your
Yeah.
Bitcoin inheritance either.
The UX wrappers on top of that policy needs to be very straightforward and easy to use. Because that's the thing, you get very complex with Miniscript. It's like Liana and Anchor Watch. I think that's their goal, was to make it as simple as possible to set up quorums without fucking yourself up.
I mean, just think about where multisig was 2 years ago. It was way, way, way more complicated than it is today.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Miniscript kind of follows a similar trajectory.
Yeah, it's going to take time. We're making progress. I want to get back to leading into the regulatory grift that is qualified custodians. Like, again, it's like clown world shit where was Gemini considered a qualified custodian?
Gemini owes $1 billion to their users.
I know, but were they qualified custodians?
No, I think most of the exchanges can't legally be qualified
The
custodians.
Coinbase is.
They claim they are.
That's why Grayscale collects their or holds their Bitcoin with.
But it's
Coinbase.
because it's a separate entity. I guess it's still owned by the parent company, right? Coinbase custody or whatever.
Yeah.
That trust structure, I think, needs that qualified custodian status for the assets that are in that trust.
Yeah. It's I don't know, it's a grift. I think companies like Unchained, River, others
Strike
in the
now.
space, Strike are probably the best suited
Strike-
to secure Bitcoin.
Strike right after RHR announced that they fully own their infrastructure.
Yeah, that last week.
Not a qualified custodian. But the only people that can rug you is Strike now.
Don't rug us, Jack.
Yeah.
That was a great line from
Unless you
yesterday's
hold your own
Mighty
keys, then you don't have to deal with it.
Panel. Oh, I forgot.
Well, you can't be rugged unless you're under. If you're under.
Yeah,
the rug.
Brent Whitehood was on the mining panel too. I forgot to mention him earlier. And
He's great.
he said, "Yeah, you got to get under the rug.
Then you can't be rugged.
Can't be rugged. Can't be rugged if you're under the rug, freaks. Very important lesson in life."
So did you see BlackRock is announcing an ETF?
They applied for one.
Yeah.
Whether or not they'll get accepted is yet to be seen. I have a feeling it will be accepted.
I mean, I kind of like.
It's a
I
bold
like
call. You
I
think so?
Yeah, it's BlackRock.
I like the theory of going, of basic coordinated action against a bunch of the heavyweights in the space, and then,
Yeah.
the large traditional player comes in and tries to take all their momentum.
Yeah.
In the midst of a bear market.
Did you see the other thing that happened this week? There was somebody on Capitol Hill. The SEC approved like a special purpose broker dealer for digital assets, and this company came out of nowhere.
Never heard of them.
Never heard of them. And this guy was on the Hill.
And they're like China based too, right?
And they're China backed, based in the US. It's very odd.
There's been something like 75 or 78 or something ETF applications that have all been denied, right, for the spot. I think there's like a 75-day period with which you have to get this documentation in, and before it can actually be approved. So these companies come in and they're like, we can't afford to be second, right? Like if you come in even a day late,
first
day behind
whoever gets
the first
approved
guy,
first,
whoever gets approved first gets like
the overwhelming
60%
majority
of the market.
Yeah, as long as they don't fuck it up.
Yeah,
like they do a Barry mistake or something where they get too greedy and they fuck it up.
Yeah, like where do you think BlackRock's going to hold that Bitcoin? Do you think they'll actually even buy Bitcoin? Will be a spot.
They're investors in USDC. Are they investors in? They're investors in Circle. They're probably one of the main shareholders of Coinbase because they're like the main shareholders of every public company. Probably Coinbase.
Yeah.
Or
if they're shareholder of the company that is holding the Bitcoin, does that mean they're holding their own keys? Kind of.
It's like 2 degrees of separation.
Freaks. Don't let them take your Bitcoin.
Do not buy the BlackRock ETF.
Do not let the blue checks take your Bitcoin. The blue checks are coming for your Bitcoin.
I'm not going to come for your Bitcoin. Again, I'm a 5th column blue check. Your Bitcoin is safe with me. If you want to send it to me, I'll protect it for you. I won't spend it. I swear. I won't rehypothecate it. But I'm not going to come for it. If you want to send it to me, I'll protect it. Just kidding. Don't send me your Bitcoin freaks.
Classic blue check doublespeak.
What else we got going?
Is BlackRock a spot or a futures ETF? Because we already have futures ETFs. I think it's a spot, right?
Let's see.
Yeah, I don't see how you compete by going after a futures ETF at this point. How many do we have?
There's a bunch.
6 or 8 or something.
Yeah.
And they're all garbage.
World's largest asset manager.
That's why it's bullshit when the SEC says they're trying to protect investors, but meanwhile they approve the paper Bitcoin futures ETFs.
BlackRock will be using Coin. They'll be using Coinbase custody for the ETF, and the crypto exchange is spot market data for pricing. So I imagine it will be.
So it's a spot ETF. Yeah.
Let's see.
There's a pretty good chance that BlackRock gets this first spot ETF. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's the holy grail.
Yeah, BlackRock.
If that really is how it plays out, like that's pretty incredible.
All I can say is it's good that Bitcoin's not proof of stake, because there's going to be a lot of Bitcoin in that BlackRock ETF.
And quick, yeah.
That's the other thing too. Like, have you seen the stuff going on in Hong Kong? China's pressuring the banks to accept crypto businesses quickly. It seems like they're making a pivot back towards crypto.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to make of that. They don't want their own people to buy it, right? It's the idea is they do it in Hong Kong and it's for the international market.
It was Hong
Kong's part of China.
Yeah.
But I think they still, the way I view it is they still block Chinese citizens from trading it. But they want, they want the companies that are trying to escape the US to come to Hong Kong and serve customers abroad.
That makes sense.
Are they just trying to change the narrative? Like, hey, we've tried to ban this like 17 times and it's not working. So now they're going
to ban it 17 more times.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting game theoretical thing if they...
We're due for another China ban.
For another China ban,
it's been 2 years.
You need a revert.
No, they've banned it without reverts in the past. They've banned it so many fucking times.
Well, that'd be interesting.
You just pretend like you didn't ban it the first time.
Yeah.
What if they woke up and say, "Hey, miners, you're welcome back."
Now live.
Like, that's something I'd like to talk to some of the Chinese miners that have migrated over here to the U.S. and other parts of the world. Would they go back to China? I find it hard to believe.
Some new upstarts would, though, right?
Imagine.
If there's cheap energy, there's just a risk reward, right? Property rights versus cheap energy, and
yeah, imagine the manufacturer, Bitmain particularly, would try to plug in all those dormant ASICs they have, right?
I like the term energy pirates. There'd be energy pirates that would try and take advantage of it, and then most of them would probably get rugged. But it's part of the game.
Yeah. I like energy pirates. Shout out to John Seth for the energy pirates meme. It's a great one. Tom at Standard runs with that. We consider ourselves pirates. What else should we talk about? He's just reading the comments. He does this.
Well, we have BTC Moon guy saying $1 million coming. We're at 25,062 and climbing.
Climbing fast. I
finally tracked Tony down yesterday. Get my Mutiny wallet.
Oh yeah,
PWA set up. I don't really know what that means.
There's a lot of people pushing back on progressive web apps today.
Before PWAs were all the rage, and they were planning on releasing so progressive web apps is just a complicated way of saying when you click a website and you press install on home screen on your mobile, right? A app that just runs from the browser. The Mutiny guys have been very clear for months before this thing even launched that the main trade-off is that it's rug pull technology, that they can push an update that steals your money, right? Them or someone else who gets access to their infrastructure, right?
They could simply have like a browser malware.
Yeah, it's the major trade-off. Now, the benefit is you don't need to ask permission from app stores, and you can ship updates right away. But we've talked about this on the podcast many times, that updates themselves are an attack vector. There's a reason why Bitcoin Core doesn't have auto updates, but there's nuance with all this stuff. First of all, most people on their phones already have auto updates set up on the App Store. You shouldn't, but most people do. The second thing is Mutiny Wallet plans to release apps as well. It's just if for some reason you can't access an app store or They get banned from the App Store, like we saw. It's in the news because Damas got banned from the Apple App Store.
Yes.
Walled garden. If they get banned from the App Store, the PWA still exists. Also, it's a false project, so you can self-host this web server as well, right? So people could go to like odellwallet.com and they could get, I could rug them, but not the Mutiny guys, right? And so you have these different Uncle Jim models that can happen. So it's just another tool with different trade-offs, but I think it's they are rightfully having their moment in the sun right now because there's a lot of new Bitcoiners that don't realize that Apple banned all Bitcoin wallets 5 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago.
Longer
there was
than
just
that.
no Bitcoin
It was
wallets.
like 10 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, it was like 2013, 2014.
With everyone was putting their phones in blenders and shooting them with shotguns and shit.
Yeah.
That's
but
pretty good timing for their launch, right? Did they orchestrate that?
Yeah.
Did they
with the blue checks
attack Damas with the blue checks?
Yeah.
So that they could orchestrate the Mutiny PWA.
But specifically with this Damas thing. And by the way, Mutiny Wallet, if you're on their wait list, you go to munitywallet.com, sign up for the wait list. They're like rolling out the public beta to people as you're on the wait list. Very clean wallet, works really well. It's just super smooth. A lot more features coming. I just love those guys, Tony, Ben, and Paul. They're just amazing. But with Damas specifically, like the reason they're getting blocked from the App Store is because Apple wants their 30% cut of zaps. So on Nostr, Damas is a Nostr client. You can zap people. You can send them sats on their posts, right? And Apple basically wants a 30% cut of that. And there's an interesting side story with that, where Apple has been at war with Epic Games, the makers of Fortnite, because Apple wants their 30% cut for Fortnite and Epic Games refuses to give it to them. So Epic is actually on every platform except Apple products. You can get it on Windows. I believe you can get it on Linux. You can get it on Android phones. You can get it on PlayStation, Nintendo Switch. You can get it on Xbox, but you can't get it on Apple products. And even though you can sideload on Macs and you can install outside of an app store, they don't provide it on Macs just as like a fuck you to Tim
Out of
Apple
spite.
because they can't put on iPhones and iPads. So they're actually been at war with them. I think there's a court case going on in the EU that Apple looks like they're losing. But anyway, this all stems from the fact that you can't easily install an app outside of the App Store on iOS devices. You obviously can do that on Android phones, Android tablets, if there's any Android tablet users out there. It's just something that people should be aware of. This is like, in terms of then they fight us, like this is like the lowest bar.
Yeah.
It's
the easiest lever.
The easiest thing for them to
pull. Just like ban it from an app store.
Yeah. And you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So dive into more of the trade-offs with progressive web apps. You don't get access to the secure element in the device. You can't use the camera or NFC. So there's a few.
I imagine they're not billing this as something that you would store a significant amount of funds on.
You can get access to the camera.
I don't think so.
There's like some weird things on Apple with the camera view that they're troubleshooting with their current release. But you've been on a website on Safari, I assume, where
I did pay with something upstairs with Beauty. So yeah, can't use the camera.
But you have to realize that those limitations are the same walled garden limitations, right? That's not a knock. Like the big knock on using a web served app is that it can auto update with a malicious update. Everything else that you mentioned, like it can't interact with the secure enclave. It gets limited on NFC on Apple products. Like that is the same people that are managing the walled garden are limiting that functionality, right?
Yeah.
You can hear that, right?
I can hear that.
But I don't think they can hear that.
Logan can't hear it. Can you hear that, Logan?
It sounds fine.
Okay, Logan, tell us if it doesn't.
Logan, tell us a joke.
No.
Oh, wow. That's insubordination. Noted.
But they do have, so on that note, though, there's interesting things from a development standpoint where there's functionality that they can do on Android phones, but they can't do on the same web app on iPhones. And they have to decide, pick and choose, like, do they And so far, like their strategy has essentially been, if it doesn't work on all devices, we're not going to ship it. But there could be an argument that, different classes of devices have different functionality with the same web app.
Yeah. Are we going to have to make our own phones?
I mean, this is the most hilarious take of all the blue checks, is this idea that I saw a couple blue checks say, we need a phone operating system.
We're going to have to buy Solana phones.
We need a phone operating system that doesn't lock you into the app store. And it's like, literally, Android exists. It's the most used phone operating system in the world. And you could just install an APK. You literally just go to the website, not even a progressive web app, just the APK Zeus. You just go to Zeus's website or GitHub, and you just press download APK, and you can just fucking run it.
Yeah, but I don't want green things showing.
Once again, Apple Walled Garden. That's the only reason there's no iMessage on Android.
The green text is very ugly. They did very good conditioning there.
I had a Droid about 15 years ago. The one with the screen that like slides up and the keyboard is revealed.
Days.
That's early days.
What was that? The slide? Is it called the slide?
It was the Droid.
The Droid.
It was a Verizon phone. Verizon had the whole Droid line, remember?
Yeah, I remember my first cell phone. It looked like
It was about 1.5 inches thick.
Yeah.
You slide the screen up. We've come a long way.
Yeah. And then, of course, if Google can go fuck themselves as well, but there are de-Googled Android OSs. The three most popular ones are Graphene, Calyx, and Lineage. I've had freaks ask me why I don't talk about Lineage a lot. Lineage has the benefit of being installable on many phones. They support many different models you can install it on, but you can't relock the bootloader, which means if someone gets physical access to your phone, you have very poor security. So that is the main trade-off there. Historically, with these custom Android OSs, that has always been the issue. And then basically the Google Pixel line of phones allows you to relock the bootloader, and that's what Calyx and take advantage of the secure element, and that's what Calyx and Graphene do.
Yeah.
Which is a big benefit for consumers.
I really don't want to get an Android phone, but if Tim Apple forces my hand, I may have to.
I mean, like, even if you want to just like continue your Apple and blue check privilege, you can still have a separate cheap Android phone that you use for Bitcoin payments. It's not the end of the world. Like that's not.
You can pick one up for like $60 or something, right?
Yeah,
and think about it, like you can't fit them both in your pockets.
I mean, you carry a wallet.
I don't.
Will you just use Apple Pay for everything?
To Android phones.
I got a little slip here.
Still, yeah.
That's not a wallet.
Wallet case.
It's a card holder.
He's got a little slip on his phone.
I'm a phone wallet case maxi.
Then you lose everything at the same time.
Yes, exactly right.
All in. Is
But
your phone a qualified custodian? Are you concerned about that trade-off?
No comment.
Back to the qualified custodian stuff. The BlackRock. Actually, maybe it doesn't get passed. If the SEC is suing Coinbase right now, what are the chances that BlackRock gets its ETF through?
I miss the old Marty Jones. Like, Marty Jones would be like 100% chance BlackRock ETF gets passed.
100% chance. I mean, it's
very likely.
If one's going to get passed, it's probably them. But again, going back to like the grift of the regulatory capture.
It is the most corrupt timeline. The most corrupt timeline is that the Gemini twins try and launch an ETF in 2013. They knock down all the ETFs along the way. They wait till Gemini is in hot water with Uncle Barry, and they owe $1 billion to users. They go after Coinbase. They go after Binance. They have like 7 different paper Bitcoin ETFs that most people aren't biting on. And then they have BlackRock come in and scoop up the spot Bitcoin ETF market. All while Gary is going around saying, I'm protecting consumers. And
yeah.
That's the most corrupt timeline.
Most likely. You should bank on the case in which corruption is the highest.
BlackRock will get their piece eventually, though. I mean, the market is still so small for somebody like them to like be coming in directly. But I guess if they have the product,
I mean,
they don't have to come in directly, right? That's kind of
how many trillions do they have under management?
I think like 4 or 7.
And like, what's the market cap of Bitcoin? You just said at the beginning of this episode.
485.
Yeah.
BlackRock AUM.
I mean, obviously that's not how it works. They can't buy all the Bitcoin, but doing an ETF would be an easy way to have other people buy the Bitcoin for them.
I misspoke, but BlackRock has 10 trillion.
Yeah, I thought that sounded low.
In assets.
Dude, that's insane.
As of January 2022.
So you're a math guy. What's the percentage there of the Bitcoin market cap to that?
It's 20x, right?
Yeah.
So 5%
over like 22x.
Drop in the bucket. But why buy it themselves when they can just have people buy it through the ETF and they'll have it?
People should be divesting.
And they get to collect
from
management fees off of it too. They get to control the Bitcoin and collect management fees off of it.
Yeah, this is the
Great
worst
scam.
timeline. This is a terrible timeline.
Stay humble, stack sets.
Are we gonna win?
We are winning.
I agree with Trey.
It's just a slow timeline.
But it's not going to be easy. Like this, the idea that's, and also you can't just sit back. I think a lot of people have this tendency to think that it's just inevitable if people don't do anything, and it's a little bit of a tragedy of commons. Like certain people have to do things. Like at the end of the day, this is a movement of individuals. Like individuals need to step up and push the movement forward. Now everyone doesn't have to do that, and many people can just sit back and just stack sats, but it takes some people to stand up and push this movement.
We need more meetups.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the meetup organizers.
There you go. Just to bring us back full circle.
We do. I agree. That was articulated last night at the open house as well. It's what Rory and Tom ended it on. Because we had somebody ask, like, how can we teach people better? It's like, no, it's not really. People will get the message when they're ready for it.
I'm with Rory. I don't try to convince anybody anymore. I work at a Bitcoin company. I guess I'm trying to convince people who are asking.
We will.
Yeah.
We will.
99% of people like will not figure out how to use the tools and start using Freedom Tech until they have a need.
They will find some reason that comes to them,
right,
that they need to use the tool.
Yeah.
They want to explore it.
Once they realize the need,
Rob Hamilton.
he's a little bit late. Once they realize the need, they'll figure it out.
The
I don't actually have a mic for him.
And the most common reason.
Come over here, Rob. You can sit on my lap and use my mic.
And the most common
I'm
reason
kidding.
that is number go up.
Number go up.
Number goes up.
No, I
people
don't think
come
that's
in.
a need. I think that's like the privileged reason. I think the need is when you get rugged at the country level, like in Argentina, or payments start getting censored, like we saw in Canada.
But it has to be an extreme need before people like actually take action. It can't just be like, oh, a little inconvenienced with my payments.
Tom's quote to end the meetup last night was good. Is like, you have to have the question in your brain. Answers. If you get an answer and you don't have the question in your brain, it's not going to find a place.
Yeah, there's nowhere for it to go, right?
Yeah,
that's what he said.
Yeah, you have to have a question in your mind. Oh, if they can shut down our bank accounts and take our Bitcoin and take my money,
you're not going to bring over a seat. You're just going to stand there.
Well, I was offered to sit on Marty's lap.
But there's a seat in the other room over there if you want to grab a seat.
Happy to grab one. I was told by someone in the park I was called down to the principal's office.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to crash the pod.
We were talking about Miniscript earlier.
Oh, boy.
Before we go to Miniscript and Rob, I just want to say, like, we were talking about like in-person interactions. Right now, the Oslo Freedom Forum is happening in Oslo.
Shout out to everybody in Oslo right now.
Yeah, and the HRF Human Rights Foundation. In the show notes, I do have their financial freedom track live stream. Everyone should check that out. Really great content curated by Gladstein over there. But we need these in-person interactions. Like, fuck Zoom. There's things that just have to happen in person, and we make way more progress as a result. I think if 2020 has taught you anything, like, that's what it should teach you.
Yeah. How do we get more questions into people's minds? Is it just events?
People are going to touch the stove. Like, I'm pretty sure the path to hyper Bitcoinization is people just getting rugged over and over and over again until they take personal responsibility.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this, Rob?
The ruggings will continue until morale improves.
Well, ruggings crush morale.
Yeah. So just like sat down. So I guess with that setup in mind, I would say that it's a learned behavior because you have just people over time. Just as security solutions get better, I think it gets harder and harder to have these ruggings happen. And I think, 5-10 years ago, talking about Bitcoin with people, they're like, I don't even know what that is. And now they're like, oh, there's no way that can ever survive. So like, I was on an Uber this morning and the guy's like, oh, Bitcoin, I never want to touch that stuff. And I think this is just part of the journey of Bitcoin.
What is it, meth?
Basically, he made it sound like dirty.
Rob, I think we're past, it's never going to survive.
Well, that's what I mean.
Most people know that it's not going away at this point. Right?
Well, 10 years ago, it was, I don't even know what that is. And now it's like, oh, that's never going to work.
Yeah.
Right.
There are
like,
blue checks out there that think it won't survive.
Not this one.
That's 2 blue checks.
Oh man.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. You just lost now it's a split vote on the pod.
Well, we had the blue check sharing a mic at Bitcoin Park, which I think is fitting.
The blue checks did not get privileges at the park. I want to know that they're discriminating in Nashville, and I will not stand for it.
I didn't want to share one with an uncheck.
We put in a ramp just for blue checks to be able to access.
Yeah. I saw that Bitcoin Bugle article that you were actually now.
Fake news.
Is it?
It's the blue check collaborators, the Bitcoin Bugle guys. Never checking.
It's the deep blue check state.
So we were talking about Miniscript and inheritance, and Trey made a good point, and he was like, our argument was that increased tooling could benefit inheritance planning. And he said, a lot of people are going to lose money because of the additional complexity. Obviously, the truth is somewhere in between. You're the chief Miniscript influencer of both the podcast and the world. How do you respond to this?
So, Rob, really what I said was, let me just correct the record here. People just have to be careful using something that is more complex, and that there are some pitfalls that we need to make sure we cover off on, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the role of Miniscript really is just a tool. It's fundamentally a developer tool, right? And it allows and enables these more advanced Bitcoin custody arrangements, but you're not going to have people that are going to be compiling their own BDK wallet that leverages all this stuff and using it, right? I think Miniscript is a amazing opportunity to have Bitcoin native businesses find really interesting ways to offer value to customers. And what you can do is you can have things that are like, in the event we disappear, right? Like you have like Unchained with Caravan, right? Like in the event we disappear, you can have the sovereign path, but most of the time, we have an incentive to work with you and help manage this estate for you, right? And then you have the nice dev tooling. So the user, I honestly think the Miniscript only works for end customers if they don't even know what the word Miniscript means, right? It's just something that it just works in the back.
What does it mean?
Well, I mean, what does Miniscript mean?
We don't need to know. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just like talking about pay to script hash or pay to witness script hash. Like no one who uses multisig understands all the intricacies of how that stuff works. They just know 2 of 3 and it works. And yeah, this is more complicated because you add this new vector of time into your security arrangement where, depending on the passage of time, different spending conditions become available. That is a new thing. That's extra information to manage. But I think it's something that customers and people in general want to have, would want the optionality as a way to access this. And there's ways, and like inheritance is one really big use case of it. But there's just like really interesting tooling of like we talked about when I was on Citadel Dispatch here earlier in the year, like a dead man switch. The idea that I can actually have a way, and Liana Wallet does a really great job of using this, where I have my main way I use my keys, and as long as the funds move once every 18 months, they're fine. But in the event I get hit by a bus, X amount of time passes, and then it could be someone else's key that can.
We're talking about that.
Yeah,
where you joined.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
I think that's pretty cool.
I think it's amazing. Yeah, and it's gonna just take time. The tooling is gonna take time.
It's going to take time. It's going to be very UX dependent, in my opinion.
The UX is actually the hardest problem under the like the Bitcoin dev kit team. Like it's like having superpowers, being able to touch all this stuff and not having to go deep in the weeds in the execution. Like you can do it for fun if you want to nerd out like I do, but the accessibility of the technical stuff is very straightforward. And what we're doing right now with our UX design, everything I've done up to this point is like Rob's dev playground to like have fun visualizing stuff, but it's not stuff end users are ever going to want to really see. And the bigger challenge really is the UX visualization and making sure people understand, have that knowledge and consent for how they're managing their money.
And there's got to be some set of standards in place that like prevents people from doing something that could severely fuck up their security of their Bitcoin because they like added an extra zero.
Yep. And
now all of a sudden you've got to wait, 1,000 years before
templates are going to be the way to fix this.
Yeah.
Like having standard templates.
A simple analogy of that is how many new Bitcoiners were just were really panicky and freaked out by Luke Dasher getting his coins taken. And it's because back in the day, setting up Bitcoin storage techniques were very complicated, and you could have a lot of footgun situations. He never updated it. He was overthinking a lot of his decisions, while like a simple pleb today buys a cold card and has a way more secure setup than his setup was. And this is also something that Bitcoiners should consider, is just over time, maybe unless you are in a coma, Marty loves the coma people, unless you are in a coma, continue to study Bitcoin, continue to improve best practices and follow along with what's happening, because this wealth is increasing over time significantly most of the time. And you want to improve your setup with that, right?
Yeah. Trey, to your point, again, I think you can solve that problem with UX. Like if it is like a company like AnchorWatch, maybe Unchained down the line, that adds this type of functionality to your multi-sig setup, you can just use common sense to be like, oh, I don't think anybody's going to want to lock their coins up for 1,000 years. So like, let's limit it. Maybe we'll start 5 years, 10 years.
I would
go over that and just don't let them.
The only
do it.
concern there is there's something to be said about being able to simply verify something on your hardware device if you're using a hardware wallet. And we're already like, Ledger deserves credit for implementing Miniscript, but like no one can verify shit on that little screen when it shows you all the different Miniscript policies. And there's a lot of trust that's happening as a result in that situation, right? And I could even see at least in the short to medium term, if we have vetted Miniscript stuff, most of the users, 90% of the users, are basically just trusting the policies as being told to them about what's happening. And if there's implementation failures, they won't realize until afterwards.
Anytime a user's just instantly like click any like next check mark because they're just trying to get through the process, that's a huge failure, right? You need to have an actual information. And that's why I think the template idea is a better way. Templates enable 3 really interesting things that I've been thinking a lot about. One, security. You could have people vet and verify like, hey, there isn't any weird bug or any sort of edge case that wasn't considered in the general compiler rules. We know this is safe. Next, streamlining between different wallets operating it, right? So instead of like, if anyone's seen the demos that I've done, I'm hoping to post something out later this month, just like a general on YouTube. So people who haven't been able to see any of the workshops could check it out themselves. Or if you want to like try out the alpha as well, you can email me, rob@anchorwatch.com, and I'll give you instant access. But the idea though is like I have this general, like, I know it's just a straight shill, but people have been asking me, how do I get access? And at the moment it's whitelisted on just whoever wants to be able to access. It's on general purpose yet. Punchline being though, I have the tools, like what you see is what you get. So if you've seen the BDK Elephant tool, or if you've seen the BDK Playground, like this is an inspiration built on top of that, of these abstractions of layers, and it's a totally generalizable custom wallet. And the problem is like that's fun for developer and testing, but end users are going to footgun themselves immediately. And I actually showed this to Rodolfo and the Coinkite team, and he's like, if you send this, someone's going to just lock it to the year 2100, and then they're going to yell at you because you let them do that. And so wallet interoperability, so you don't have to support any general thing. You just have this preset list of templates, and that streamlines developer onboarding and testing and making sure that it all works. And then the signing devices at the end of the day don't have to deal with this generalizable anything is possible signing. They have this subset of a template of what they know is good, and then they show less information on screen. So you get better security, better wallet interoperability, and the signing devices can compact the information.
So the hardware wallet itself is verifying the template.
Yeah.
So you send the template to the hardware wallet, like you upload a template to the hardware wallet, then it gives you guardrails for which like you can only have your Bitcoin locked up for X amount of time.
Yeah, that would be the idea. So the way Ledger does this, it's a generalizable, any Miniscript output descriptor you want, you can do. But the idea though is that if you have a hardware wallet that's like signing off on this and generating deposit addresses, you can add additional logic in the application or firmware layer that's saying, hey, we know for a fact that this is not going to use a time lock that's going to lock your funds forever. Now, an interesting thing, just at a very quick level, absolute time lock, relative time lock. Relative time locks, you actually cannot lock them for longer than 18 months. Because it's a 16-bit number. So if you only use relative time locks, the worst you could ever lock yourself out is 18 months, which is not ideal. But like, you know,
it's not that much time.
No, but you're constrained by the protocol then to know that you don't have any crazy footgun that could have something that's like, 200 years from now.
That's something that's built into the Bitcoin protocol?
Yeah, so that's BIP68, the relative op check sequence verify. So since it's a 16-bit number, the two ways that works is one, you could do by block height, but a 16-bit number is 65,500 blocks, which is roughly 18 months. Or if you do it by calendar, like clock time, like just actual wall time, you are constrained to roughly 12.7 months. So like either way you slice it, you're not going to have this like forever lock. That's only possible with an absolute time lock, that you could even have that thing approach to be a thing.
So you could still do that though.
If you used absolute time lock, but I'm saying if you had a template that was only relative time locks, you know for a fact you will never lock it for 100 years because you're only using something that can go at worst case 18 months.
Right. And it's $1 million Bitcoin in 18 months. Right?
Maybe we just get our feet wet with relative time locks.
So I think relative time locks is actually the most compelling thing too for like the sovereign individual use case. It's less data that you need to worry about backing up in your output descriptor. You have this self-send dead man switch functionality. I think it intuitively makes a lot of sense. And then you could also layer in your absolute time locks as relative if you wanted to. And say,
what
like,
about
yeah.
what about the fact that 95% of blue checks send their Bitcoin to their hardware wallet and then never move it?
So this is actually a really
they have to actually go there and manually move it every 18 months.
Well,
and then mempools aren't going to clear again.
Yeah.
All the memes are coming together. Like, and then are they going to have to make a transaction every 18 months and go out of their way to do that?
So you could pre-sign the transaction and pocket it, and then you could use like the mempool transaction accelerator. So if you have a mismatch in your if it's like one sap or vbyte, right, when you initially set up the vault, you can pre-sign it, put it in your back pocket, and since you're just sending it to your own receive address, there's no leak if like that someone found that transaction hex, because the worst case they could do is broadcast it and move your money for you to yourself.
Right.
But
so you still have to pay the fee.
You have to pay the fee, right? And then if you
got to make sure you control the keys to the address that you're sending it to.
But since you're sending it to your own set of keys, it's like sending it from address 1 to address 2. You haven't changed the security structure in which the funds are being like secured. But yes, yeah, you would definitely want to make sure you still have access to those keys.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of UX design needed to make this all, because that's the other thing we talk about this a lot. Just interacting with private public key pairs, like just pure single sig pairs, is like a new type of interaction that people are learning.
Paradigm shift.
Yeah, it's a paradigm shift, and like it's like for our whole lives up until we found Bitcoin, our interaction with our money was like, all right, we get paid, it gets to a bank account, and I can use my debit card.
Keep it with my qualified custodian.
Yeah, keep it with my qualified bank custodian. Yeah, it's just going to be like a learning process. There's going to be like new processes. It's like, oh, here's how I manage my money. I do have to be somewhat active once a year, maybe, to do a wallet check.
Yeah, it's great that we have people like Rob building these tools that can be really, really great for people. We're also, and this is my experience on a day-to-day basis, working with people who are new to Bitcoin, and there's a lot of people who will be new to Bitcoin, and they don't understand any of this stuff, right? Like holding a hardware device in their hand for the first time is a scary proposition, and there's a huge learning curve there. And so, yeah, building that UX, building the tools and the workflows that allow them to get through that easily and that it makes sense to them is very difficult, right? So it's one of the biggest challenges that we have, and it's why we do so much handholding as part of our process for onboarding people, to allow them to get that education so that they can't screw it up.
And this is why I've been a massive proponent of, if you're a very good UX designer out there in traditional tech or fintech, come to Bitcoin.
Yeah, we need you.
You have a wide open canvas which you can leave your mark on.
I would just there's a little bit of nuance there, because when we were going like deep into the UX and trust and who you're trusting in that situation, for a lot of that group of users, and I guess correct me if you disagree, if the alternative is them trusting their local qualified custodian, a Miniscript policy that has been vetted by Unchained, and they're holding their hand going through this Miniscript policy, and they're like, we've vetted this, all this, whatnot. On that trust trade-off balance, it's like they're going to trust a qualified custodian with all their keys and everything versus, trusting a financial institution that is holding their hand and vetting Miniscript policies. That seems like a way better trust trade-off than just giving up custody of your funds, right? And there's a balancing act there. And then maybe, ideally, maybe then that client gets old and passes their coin to their grandkid or whatever. I don't even know what technology we have at that point or whatever, but then that person then upgrades their family stack or whatever and improves their setup and reduces the trust. And you kind of have these like intergenerational, like over time, improvements kind of be made, right?
Yeah, I think that's another thing. We're sort of blinded by our context within the history that we live in. I don't think people have really factored in like children learning how to use private public key pairs early in life and developing that as sort of a routine that they get used to, like what that does psychologically for generations that come after.
It's definitely easier for younger people and kids these days who are just used to using a screen and dealing with money or anything really in that digital sense to get comfortable with private key, private key pairs. I think we grow into this, and in a lot of ways grow out of the old system, just by the fact that like people who won't accept it because they're too old to accept it, like they kind of just die off, right? I mean,
Everybody's gonna die.
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
shit.
Yeah.
Is that a new revelation for you?
Humans have our entire evolution trying to understand to secure physical things, and the best thing we've done for digital security is treat it physical, right? You have seat plates, you have like you're splitting things up, like that's the way we've been able to make it work at this point, because we're not evolved to understand digital security. Like it's a very complicated, hard thing, and we have devices like signing devices that allow us to make it easier to like not footgun yourself, but it's gonna be a learning process for sure. And just to kind of close out like the Miniscript stuff, not to I just think it's gonna be businesses first that touch that stuff.
But Bitcoin itself, like Bitcoin is secured by the physical world.
Yeah.
Like we kind of can't get away from that. You can't make it purely digital, because if you do, you're proof of stake land,
right?
Where the rules
we can make up physics
by.
Isn't that what Vitalik said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
right. Like
in
that land, BlackRock gets the ETF. They get all the Bitcoin. They change the rules in their favor, and we're basically back to the old system, right? So like you do have to anchor things to the physical world, and having that available or an option or maybe as a necessity for private key material is probably always going to be there.
Yeah, I think it's also just from full peace of mind, right? Because you always have what happens if an EMP happens. I like being able to have a seat plate that I know.
Are the lights going to go off?
The lights and the internet go off for a bit, but then we'll be quickly stood back up and doing it over AM rate.
So I had a freak ask me. We have you on air now.
Oh, great.
Talking about EMPs and the lights going off. A freak asked me. There's more news articles lately about cyber attacks and power going out, and most of the freaks have read the Mandibles, so they kind of know what's coming. The ones that haven't, listened to the 4-hour Balaji pod of the same vein. Walk us through what you like. Does Bitcoin fail in a situation where the power goes out?
Everything fails. It's not even like a fun conversation to have anymore.
Well, this
seems like an important conversation to have, and I don't think that's the correct answer.
Well, so the usual like offhand comment I make is I got this from American HODL, a barbell distribution of assets, where on one end you have Bitcoin for the great optimistic future, and then if everything fails, bullets and alcohol much better than trying to figure things out. If you're in a total like Mad Max, like everything is like offline permanently, you have much bigger problems, right? And the cool thing is that in 10 years when they figure out Bitcoin, as long as one node survives, you'll be able to access your money again, right?
It doesn't even have to be like an online node either. You just need like a state that survives in a file form.
Well, how do you trust that it hasn't been modified by a blue check?
Yeah, that's at
that point you just have to weigh the trade-offs. Like,
no one can hear you.
At that point you just have to weigh the trade-offs. Like, hey, like maybe it's better than nothing.
Well, no, I mean I think that the chances of a global power outage
forever,
that's a very simple terminology, but like a global EMP or power going out everywhere, internet going out everywhere is very, very negligible. And I would say to Marty's point earlier that if the power goes out, one of the things that I during all the COVID hysteria and lockdowns and stuff, if the internet had went down for 3 days, it would have been pure chaos in America. During all of that other shit that was going on, if the internet also went down, boom, like it just would have been chaos in the streets. And I think if you have the power go out in a sizable part of the world, that part of the world for a large amount, for a long enough period of time, and that maybe that period is a week, maybe that period is 2 weeks, like you'd have straight chaos and a lot of systems would break. All the whole banking system would be broken, transportation, everything would be fucking broken. But Bitcoin, because it's this global system that is designed in a trust minimized way, if a decent portion of the rest of the world is still functioning, the Bitcoin network is still functioning, and then you can then come back to it. You can be using your own node. You can verify everything after the fact.
It would be the first thing to come back online in that scenario. If the whole financial system is in like destroyed
Yeah.
and shut down for however long. As soon as you like flip the internet back on, so to speak,
Yeah, you click the switch.
you click the switch and Bitcoin is back up and running, and it probably takes
2 weeks.
2 weeks, you think?
And
2
it's the
years,
meme.
a year, whatever. 2 years to get the regular financial system back online, right?
I think you like the ammo and the alcohol and the food, water.
You just need all that to get you to
That's
the
the
point.
meantime.
Mhm.
But your Bitcoin at the end of the day is probably going to be worth significantly more after that.
Forced blackout hodl. I like that.
I mean, and then you can get into the whole thing of mesh nets and physical transactions, things like Sats cards.
What's the latest on mesh nets?
I think Elon is probably the closest thing we have to an evil movie villain. But Starlink has some interesting properties in terms of EMP resistance. So people that have Starlinks might have little pockets of internet with people that have generators and Starlinks. Because if you have an EMP, and this is if Elon isn't the one who launches the EMP, obviously, or if he just bans non-blue checks from using Starlink. But if you have an EMP that goes over Tennessee, for instance, right? Like Starlink satellites aren't geosynchronous. So in effect, you can imagine that you always have a different satellite above you. So if the EMP goes off above Tennessee, it'll take out whatever satellites are directly above it.
At that time.
But you'll still have intermittent internet that comes through, right? And then you can build meshes off of that. There's interesting aspects there. And the thing is that technology, while there has been a decent amount of progress of these kind of communications protocols and technologies in situations where you don't have great access, don't really happen until our centralized infrastructure gets rugged, right? Because people don't have the need for it. So there's no real
They're not
movement
asking the
towards
question, so they don't get the answer.
Yeah.
I really hope it doesn't happen. Don't EMP us, CIA, please. Just leave us alone.
Elon still got a
It's
little
bad
bit of
enough.
Bitcoin on the Tesla
It's
balance
bad
sheet,
enough.
right? Like that's when the bear market ends, is when Tesla finally dumps that last like 25% or whatever from their.
You
Do
will
they
need a
still own
blue chip.
Bitcoin?
I think, don't they?
I think they have some.
I thought they dumped all their Bitcoin.
I thought they sold 75% of it. They still got 25% of that 1.4 that they originally bought.
Tesla.
I don't think they sold all of it.
Yeah.
I don't.
That's when the bear market ends. When Tesla reports that they sold that last 25%.
You will need a blue check to use Starlink, though, so you may want to hedge your bets.
I will say, as much shit as I give Elon, you can use Starlink relatively privately. They do know location, so they can cross-check location on you. But it's the only high-speed internet that I know of that is not. The thing is, high-speed internet in general is completely cucked because it's like based on your home address. And Starlink, that's not the case. They have their like roving one, and you can use a prepaid Visa card to buy it. And you can get it shipped somewhere like the park that is not attached to your identity directly.
But soon you're going to need your blue check at X.com
Oh,
payment,
100%. Yeah.
payment account.
He's going to turn off your car if you stop your subscription payment.
Is there a way to use a satellite internet without knowing like a physical location?
You
Well,
can do like a Wi-Fi hop, can't you?
Because his big breakthrough was that it's not geosynchronous orbit. And that's why previous satellite internet has been so poor in terms of latency, because the satellites are higher up. So his satellites are lower. That's why people that love the sky are also upset with him, because you can see them, right? And his early satellites were very reflective, so you could really see them. And now he's like matte black coats them or whatever. And because it's geosynchronous, your Starlink on the ground needs to have a little motor in it that is constantly directing itself at. So there's an argument. I think there's a very strong argument that Teslas don't need always on location, but he forces you to have always on location on a Tesla. Starlink, there's a very strong argument for why that's necessary, is so that it can actually
It has to know where you are to position itself to shoot you the beam.
Now it also reports back home and beams at home and all this stuff. It definitely doesn't need to do that. Maybe for load balancing or something is the argument there. So like it's hitting Elon's servers and saying like this Starlink user's in this exact location right now.
Yeah. So we just need him to open source the Starlink.
Never gonna happen.
Never gonna.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we think Elon's an evil villain, but this is pretty.
Well, no, I think Elon's an evil villain. You love Elon,
No, you
and
didn't
you
listen.
wear the badge.
You didn't listen to the
You wear the
Gagliardi
check.
podcast. You got to listen to the Gagliardi.
You
podcast.
can't just. Why we have a podcast we do every week. Why don't you make a compelling argument?
We're in the honeymoon phase where everybody's like all jacked up, like he's bringing back free speech.
We're not in the honeymoon phase.
Oh, it's the honeymoon phase. Like he's positioning. You've pointed this out very aggressively. Like he wants to make it WeChat. X.com will be the WeChat.
This is
of
not
America.
aggressive yet. You'll see aggressive.
I know I will. I have a theory that Matt's going to be so aggressive, he's going to force Elon to respond to him on Twitter. It's going to be great. Yeah, it's the honeymoon phase. Everybody, all the conservatives who got banned are back, and they're like, yeah, free speech is here. And it's just a honey trap where eventually it's going to be.
So you're literally in the honey trap. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, but
that's your argument?
I have an Oster and pub. Once the honey trap, I'm going to suck the honey as much as I can, and then I have a fucking shoot that I'm going to pull as soon as the trap's about to fall on me, and I'm just going to get off and go to Noster.
You heard it here first, freaks. He's in the honey trap, eating the honey. He's smarter than all the other bees.
Honeysuckle.
Honeysuckle. You guys need me in there. We've discussed this. The things that I'm learning with the blue check, you're going to be thankful. Once the trap drops, I'm going to get out and be like, hey, here's their plan, guys.
Within a period of 4 weeks, Marty went from I accidentally bought the blue check to I am fifth column blue check, and you need me to report back on what the other blue checks are doing. And they're all in the honey trap, but I know what I'm doing. I'm eating the right amount of honey.
I've got the parachute. Nobody else. I'm looking at everybody. Nobody else has got the chute. Maybe Rob does.
Yeah, I got my parachute, my blue check parachute, all ready to go.
That hit me, man. You got a beer over there?
Oh yeah, I got you. I was like, I'm not gonna hit you. You're not a blue check.
Matt doesn't take like I need a beer sign. My
cold storage koozie is very lonely over here.
Did you design that koozie?
The cold storage piece was my idea. I did not design the koozie though.
The cold storage
Shout out to
piece is very clever.
Shout out to Kaylee.
Shout out to
Shout out to Kaylee. She's a rock star.
What else can we talk about this week? Oh, Yellen. What do we think about Yellen's comments?
What were her comments?
She was at the House Financial Services Committee earlier this week, was getting pressed about the de-dollarization going on in the world with the BRICS countries and people diversifying.
Oh, yeah.
She basically said she's stacking sats.
She said,
isn't that the implication?
Americans should prepare for a slow transition away from the dollar as the reserve currency.
And like 6 months ago, she said that the dollar will always be the reserve currency. Right?
Yeah. It's a pretty big admission. That's like, I feel
it's a
like
pretty big
that's something you hear
reversal for a 6-week period, right?
That's something
like
you
6
hear.
months,
6 months.
Something you hear by the suddenly part of gradually then suddenly.
That was like a Bitcoin Twitter thing for years, and now she's just outright saying it. Yeah. Right. The narrative shifts in the Overton window expectations, or you can just see it in real time, the trajectory. This is the new version of it. The inflation is transitory. Right. It's like, it's not happening. It's not happening. Now it's happening.
What's the play there, though, right? Like, she doesn't have an incentive to be floating that idea.
Well, I think that's the exact point, is like, if it's gotten to the point where if you're an objective observer, it's undeniable that it's happening. And so if all these representatives are pressing you on it, like, hey, look at this, look at that, she has to be like, yeah, well, actually it is happening. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
I think it's a psyop. She doesn't believe that.
What?
She doesn't believe the dollar is losing global reserve status.
Well, she did sugarcoat it with like, it's going to take a while. There's not a formidable replacement of the dollar yet. Like, it's going to be strong for long, but it is going to lose.
Well, what's the angle? That's what Trey's asking.
Well, she had to admit the objective truth, which is that people are.
Why? When have these people ever admitted the objective truth?
And when he says these people, he means blue checks.
I mean the blue checks.
I try to admit objective truth every week. No, because it's so obvious. I think dollar as a percentage of
it is not obvious
reserve
to most people.
It is not
to most people, but if you're an economist, you're the Treasury Secretary of the United States, it's obvious to you that the percentage of dollars as Treasury assets for countries around the world has fallen from like 60 to 45% over the last decade.
But again, like, what advantage is gained by saying that out loud? Even if it's true and she knows it's true, what is the play?
There isn't a play. It's like her hand was forced.
Well, how was her hand forced?
because the objective truth is it's obviously happening. Like, pointing out the charts, are like, what's happening here? She's like, yeah, it looks like we're losing our reserve status. Like, that's like when things get weird, when they're like forced to be like, yeah, it's happening.
This is 4D chess.
I kind of agree with Trey here. I think it's psyop.
Well, why is it a psyop?
Is it setting up the CBDC? Like, it's like, oh, we lost global reserve, but the way we can maintain it,
we got to stop the global reserve status from being lost, and we need this BlackRock-backed CBDC.
We need to distribute it out to the blue checks, everyone get their blue check dollars, and be
and scan their eyeballs with WorldCoin,
of course,
to verify it.
It's just the irises.
I just wanted Joe Weisenthal.
I just want you guys to know they have an orb here at the park.
There is no orb at the park. There is no orb at the park.
What did Joe Weisenthal say?
Yeah, what did Joe?
He's always he's on top of a lot of things. And I saw him reply to Elon asking if he was considering using WorldCoin eye scanning orbs to verify blue checks in a privacy preserving way.
What did Elon say?
He didn't respond.
Well,
but he saw it.
I think we have breaking news. Will Reeves posted today that Apple has rejected the Fold app.
Everyone's getting rejected on like little things, and like the Fold app probably will be fine. Like Zeus, that's what happened to Zeus. This just reminds me of when like Pomp would get banned from iTunes and then just like pump his numbers by saying,
Yeah, I saw Zeus. Their release came out. Right?
Yeah, it got a
but why is this? This hasn't happened in the past, Matty.
It happens all the time, but you just don't get massive Twitter engagement if you tweet it out, right?
I liked NVK's take on this, that this is like they did some internal like updating of rules, and then you have some low level review person who's just like blindly following this, and now they're going to go revisit and like try and reshuffle it out, because a rewards card app is a really weird thing to deny. It's not even a you can't spend from it. You can only just get, you plug in your dollar. Well, yeah, you just get gift cards from it. So it seems it's not like a full Bitcoin wallet where you're just like spending and receiving. You're like,
if you ask most Apple app developers, they get rejected all the time, and then they go through that's the thing, is like it's all so cucked. It's like you go through all the bullshit, then they finally approve you, and then you just rinse and repeat, and you end up doing it all over again another time.
So I walked in late. Did you guys talk about the trade-offs between mobile apps and progressive web apps? Cool. All right. Yeah. I mean, that's
probably too long, but we talked about it at length.
Got it. Yeah. I mean,
we also talked about how you can install an APK on Android.
Yeah. Are you allowed to do that if you're blue check?
Blue checks don't use Android.
I'll never have the green text.
I'll never have the green text.
It's disgusting. It's visually repulsive.
Dude, just stop using iMessage.
No, God, no. It's so clean. I can lose it from my laptop, dude. It's awesome.
Did you pre-order a Vision Pro? You gonna live in the pod with your blue check, eating the bugs?
Yeah, I'm gonna turn back to the Coomer life with my Vision Pro. It's the
Marty says that the Vision Pro is so realistic that it doesn't count as porn.
That's what I've heard. I haven't tried it. No, the Vision Pro is like, I think the comments on Twitter, like the commercial, like the dad in a room,
it's so
like, checking his email.
It's
and his
so
kid's like, Daddy. He's like, oh, what's up? It's like, what?
He's like kicking the soccer ball to him while he's got the fucking headset on.
I would be, number one, I would be a hypocrite. I am, if I was like, the Vision Pro, like, you won't be present. I do need to get better at my phone, and I have been making conscious efforts to be better at my phone at home.
Yeah, same.
But I think that's like even a step too far. I don't want to be the dad.
It's a big step.
Yeah, I don't want to be the dad in the kitchen with the Vision Pro on. Like, what's going on?
It was a weird way to show.
They literally went from pod to pod.
Yeah. But I mean, it does look pretty cool. Come on. You guys are going to go to the Apple store and try it.
I'll definitely try it.
I'm down. Yeah. I'm not trying it at the Apple store if everybody else putting it on. I'll buy my own.
Bring some wipes or whatever.
I'll try it in the comfort of my own pod.
We hadn't talked about the Vision Pro at all. This is the first time on RHR.
Yeah.
I think it's also the first Apple release they did video only. They weren't on stage for it.
What is enough? Like, why can't you just watch a movie on your TV screen?
There is, the freaks know I love my near-term science fiction, or just fiction. With technology nowadays, I feel like even regular fiction is science fiction. But there is that will happen. What will happen is a large portion of society is just going to check out and go into virtual reality. And we talk about personal responsibility all the time. They're going to absolve themselves of all personal responsibility, and they're going to do their qualified custodian VR, and their whole life is going to be a custodial relationship with this VR provider. And the bull case for Bitcoin in that situation as well is they'll probably be paying sats for that service, as the digital bearer asset money of that future. But a large portion of the population is going to check out, and you already kind of see that in some of the Asian countries in terms of video games and stuff like that. It's like the very early days of it, but that switch, to quote Parker, is going to be a gradually then suddenly switch. And when you start to see things like the Vision Pro, you start to see like where those giant leaps happen in innovation, at least in terms of packaging it for the end user.
Yeah, I mean, the spirit of what you're saying, I agree. I think there it is, to like be devil's advocate for a moment, like Apple, it is a really crazy innovation from a technology standpoint, what they're being able to do with this. And I think they're like if I was sitting in an airplane, that's a strictly better experience if I'm already in a pod, which is an airplane, to have something like that, right? Like the visualization,
you can have like 100-foot screen,
in
an airplane.
And it's a whole paradigm shift from a platform too. It's kind of like when Apple came out with the iPhone, it redesigned the whole idea of like what it is to have this technology. And I think we're very early from actually fully understanding the implications. There's definitely like that dystopian like angle of everyone checking out, being disassociated from reality, because it blends really well, like you say, with like it will happen because it really
it's not everyone. It's just a large.
I mean, it's an evolution from where we are now, right? Like I spend way too much time on my phone looking at Twitter and reading all this bullshit.
Well, I mean, I think just to go back to Marty's favorite topic, porn, like the big one is going to be when they make it so.
You're the one who's always bringing it up.
We got a Miniscript influencer, and we got the porn influencer over here. The big change is going to be when they can make sex as close to realistic in the pod.
Yeah.
And there's just going to be like, people think like the incel concept and stuff is bad now. That's when people really fully check out a personal responsibility, is because that's like the one this is a very natural key, like grounding thing that holds humans together, is this natural drive for intimacy with someone.
Neuralink, right? Your buddy Elon.
Yeah, he's going to put the link in. You're going to get better engagement on Twitter for it.
Yeah, you're cutting out
the better engagement. Yeah, with your Vision Pro, and
you're cutting out the feedback loop of how you conduct yourself in society with responsibility, right? And all of a sudden, if you can just kind of short circuit your interactions with all other people, to your point, like it does encourage an acceleration for a lot of people to just fully check out from society.
Well, I keep thinking about,
as long as they have Bitcoin,
the visual of me and my wife sitting on a couch, both of us having our Vision Pros on with our 100-foot screens, watching the same movie, instead of like just sitting on the couch without these things and watching the TV, right?
Yeah.
That's weird. But, if you're sitting on the airplane by yourself and you're watching a movie, like that seems like a pretty good.
Matt's favorite future predictive book is Mandibles. My favorite future predictive movie is Minority Report, also a book. But I mean, it's all coming true. Like the iris scans, the ability to shut down cars remotely, the VR sex.
Pre-crime.
We're gonna find Marty in the bathtub with the ice, like tearing his eyeball out.
It was also in Demolition Man. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
Demolition Man. They totally get rid of physical contact, and they have like sexual intimacy with these VR goggle headsets. Like that's a huge part of that movie too.
Vision Pro. I mean, when I saw the Vision Pro, the first thing I thought was a Minority Report UX.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a party pooper.
You need to get to the airport.
We got 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
Bitcoin did not hit $1 million, so I can't miss my flight, unfortunately.
You're not going to fly unscheduled?
I can't fly unscheduled. We heard this meme yesterday. It's the biggest flex in the world. Oh, you fly scheduled?
PJs. Yeah.
So what do we want to cover in the last 10 minutes?
Bitkey. We talked Bitcoin. We mentioned it, but we didn't.
Ride or Die Freak Jevy telling us what to talk about.
Bitkey launched. It is the Block Inc. hardware device that pairs with your Cash App wallet and apparently your Coinbase wallet too.
Yeah, they announced a public or a limited beta where you can apply on their website and get to the wait list. And then I guess they send you a Bitkey, and then their initial partnership is with Coinbase and obviously Cash App, but Cash App is
part of the
subsidiary of Block. Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea, I mean, we've talked about this many times in the past, but for the uninitiated who are unaware what the Bitkey is, it is a hardware device that uses biometrics, your thumbprint, to essentially validate. Is it a 2 of 2 multi-sig?
2 of 3.
2 of 3.
So Block has one on their server, a key on their server, the app has a key, and then your hardware device is a key. And the bigger thing is, in my mind, in the trade-off balances, there's no screen on the hardware device.
You can't verify that any of those keys are strictly under your control.
It's
right?
not BIP39 compatible either.
Yeah, we talked about this at BitDevs on Tuesday, and it is a trade-off. And I think part of their fuser features, they want to have things like spending conditions, right? Because Bitcoin script doesn't understand, are you holding 10 Bitcoin at this address or 1 Bitcoin or whatever? So since it's all their servers, they can add this kind of like policy layer to make sure that you're spending certain things, which is a thing. Like, it's nice, but again, if you're talking about this, like internet's down, like all of a sudden now the server is acting as this intermediary for sending things to the hardware wallet in your mobile app, you are really strongly anchored to that. And there's no way to my understanding, externally back up exit outside that quorum because there's no seed phrases, so that you don't have the means of being able to pull your money out if their servers go
The
down.
counter argument is that people that are using Coinbase and Cash App right now are doing it in a fully self-custodial way, even if it's with a qualified custodian. What?
You said self-custodial.
Yeah, they're using it in a fully custodial way.
It is an improvement in that regard.
It's a strict improvement, and the idea is like, okay, how do we do the? I think it's a very clear mission, which the mission is, how do we onboard as many people to a better option than the current status quo, which is custodial, right?
Yeah.
And with their reach and the fact that so many people are on Cash App and own Bitcoin on Cash App, if they are pushing that the next step is that they take self-custody, even if it's in this kind of like janky model that doesn't really solve the problem fully, that's still an improvement. Like, we're definitely in a better position just from people having that thought process in their mind that they should be thinking about self-custody.
So I will say, if you're threat modeling this at very basic first principles, if it's a closed source app, that's one key and one key's on their server, it's already, because like I understand the structure of it,
you can't
right?
verify any of
You
those
can't, since you
keys.
can't verify.
We're aware that's Casa's default model, right?
Yep.
Oh, the gold membership. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. So like, but that if you're just baseline threat modeling things, like that is, you have to just assume the worst, right? Like, it's don't trust, verify. You don't have the means to be able to actually verify it. I would add that it's all part of this trade-off when you're trying to get the next 100 million people to use it. This was also kind of like the Ledger Recover story. They wanted to have a product that can get the next 10 million.
Yeah, but the problem with Ledger Recover is they took a user base that was already sought out self-custody and was already using self-custody, and then they went to push an update that changed that, while this is a product that's first and foremost attempting to...
It's a step forward, not a step back.
For custodial users.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's another argument that we've talked about in Rabbit Hole Recap in the past, which is it's going to be the first real exposure to regulators in the US of multi-sig, and how that changes the dynamics of how Cash App or Coinbase gets treated in that relationship. And I think that will be interesting to at least witness, because I mean, I'm the first one who says that most of our regulators are incredibly corrupt. But it should be interesting to see how they interact with that, because the argument is going to be made that Cash App and Coinbase cannot rug their users in this situation, even though
they can.
That's dangerous. I mean, there's a line there, right, where they're not, like, they have to actively attack their users as opposed to holding their keys for them.
Wait, the keys on the server, when it's on the app, does that mean like
the app is self-custody key?
It's on your secure enclave in your phone.
Yeah. Since it's an app, it'd be a secure enclave. That's the idea, though. And so
the user is supposed to click, but they can still get a malicious update that changes it. It's the Casa Gold model in that regard, but Casa Gold doesn't give you a hardware wallet. You get a consumer hardware wallet that has a screen on it.
You can also sovereign exit. You get your output descriptor backup, and you can go sweep it to another wallet or use a different wallet if the Casa app disappears, right? Like, in that sense,
we don't know if that's not the case here, right?
Well, as far as I know, if there's no BIP39 backup, you're not getting...
Or do we know that for sure, or is that just Marty?
I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Because my understanding was that they were doing open standards.
Well, they had that blog post, seed phrases or sharp edges. So I think they were talking about like the trade-offs with seed phrases.
Oh, but Casa also doesn't use seed phrases.
I'm guessing it remains to be seen as to whether or not they even give people the option to look at that BIP39 seed phrase. right? Like it might just not. You
Mm.
download a wallet on your phone, you set it up the first time, and pretty much the first thing that you see anywhere is like back up your wallet, right? That's probably not going to be shown as the default. If you go in the settings in this model, are they going to even give you the option to do it? That probably remains to be seen, right? But that's the point that you're making.
Yeah.
Is that if they have the option, then at least people who are in the know about that could take that and recover at least one key.
Well, just like you.
Oh, and you've got the hardware,
right? Like if the Unchained website went down, you could use the whole backup process.
Or Sparrow. You could use Sparrow.
Exactly.
I expect that to be the case with Bitkey as well, but we'll see.
We'll see. Design space being expanded. I do agree with you. I think the intention is just like make it as easy as possible, move somebody in the right direction, but hopefully it is a stepping stone towards a more secure setup.
I'm really excited to see how regulators deal with it.
Oh, that's another thing I wanted to bring up. Qualified custodians too, like in multi-sig, particularly like because Unchained lending desk, you got Kingdom Trust in that quorum, they're a qualified custodian. Like, is that the norm for like key quorums moving forward? Even though we've already bashed on the regulatory bullshit that is QCs, is that like a way to get companies?
It's definitely an interesting question if you're using multiple parties, each holding a key in a 2 of 3 multi-sig, and the person with like title to the Bitcoin does not have a key. Who is the custodian there?
Yeah.
There's equal parts distributed across multiple.
But could you set it up where
people.
it's like the QC needs to sign first or something like that? And that's okay if you have non-qualified custodians in the quorum as well.
None of that matters.
Yeah, I mean, the qualified custodian stuff, I think there's a lot of, I think, pushing towards it among players who already are looking to have that position, right? So they're viewing it as like a certain bit of a moat.
It's a moat.
It's a moat, and since they have this positioning, they want to like drive that home as like the best practice. I think for the whole conversation though, it's a failure of regulations not meeting the technology because they're treating this like a bar of gold. And Bitcoin being programmable money, the idea of like what is custody, like it's way more nuanced than this idea of like who's the one person holding all the keys. It's like that's not a practical way to like.
That's what I think is one of the coolest things that Bitkey is going to bring to the table. Is like that question: what is custody? I have to drive Marty to the airport. Should we wrap it up with final thoughts real quick? Trey, final thoughts. Welcome to the Rabbit Hole Recap. It was a pleasure to finally have you.
Thanks for having me. Final thought. Bitcoin and golf. 2 very low time preference activities that we should all partake more in.
Very frustrating.
Damn right.
Very frustrating at times.
Both can be very frustrating.
Right. There's a lot of overlap here.
There's a lot of volatility.
There's a lot of volatility.
Thank you, Trey. Rob, final thought.
Final thoughts, 2 quick ones. One, to tie the Miniscript stuff, I think it's abused by businesses first and foremost. I think businesses who have Bitcoin experts on hand can deal with all those sharp edges and tough questions. And the other one is I still do not have my Bitcoin Park hat. There is paper Bitcoin Park hat claims.
We're going to get you your hat. We're going to get you your hat. I respect it. Has it really been 152 days?
157.
Did you
now
actually
158. I went and looked up my.
There's only 2 hats in the wild right now. This one and the one Randy wears.
That's fine. I'm pushing it forward.
I will say I saw your Twitter pressure yesterday. I've had like 5 or 6 people come up to me personally at the park the last 2 days asking where your hat is.
There you go.
I talked to leadership. I said, I don't want any more blockers.
Aren't you leadership?
I talked to the other leaders. I was like, we gotta get Rob's hat. We're gonna get you a hat. We're also gonna get a bunch of the members' hats for the Lightning Summit. We're gonna have all the hats here for the Lightning Summit. All of our members are gonna get their hats.
The jackets are sick though.
You have to get rid of your blue check before you're allowed to accept
we are not getting rid of our blue checks. We are owed our hats and we will get our hats. Okay.
Matt's rule is I can complain about Bitcoin Park as much as I want as long as I keep paying the membership dues.
It's a good rule. But the jackets are dope too.
Sick. Yeah.
The jackets aren't public yet, but members are going to get jackets too. And we sized you for that. We know your size. The jacket's pretty cool.
The jacket is cool.
I didn't get sized yet.
Thank you, freaks. It's been a pleasure.
It was a great week here at Bitcoin Park. They do need more members. The doorknobs are falling off. We only got 3 mics.
We have more mics in there. We just didn't know Rob was joining us.
I'm kidding. It was a great
door
week.
handle is falling off.
It was a great week. Reiterate, Go to your meetups, freaks. Meet Bitcoiners in real life. A lot of productive stuff happens. It's been a productive week.
I mentioned the Lightning Summit, bitcoinpark.com/lightning23. If you want to join us, we have a great crew coming out.
It's going to be a really, really good.
And if you're a member, you'll get a hat.
All right, sweet. Can't wait we're going to get our hats.
The jackets come in the fall. Like we've been prototyping them, but
It's a good timing. I
it's
don't need to
hot
wear a
right now.
jacket right now in Texas,
Yeah.
so I can wait a little bit. All right. I got to go catch a flight. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Cheers, freaks. Thanks, guys.